Okej. Witam wszystkich bardzo serdecznie. Rozpoczynamy nasze kolejne webinarium dotyczące wdrażania współczesnego TRIZ w korporacjach, przedsiębiorstwach i startupach. Naszym gościem i prelegentem jest Siergiej Jakowienko z Stanów Zjednoczonych, który dzisiaj właśnie na poruszony temat opowie nam o nowoczesnym TRIZ-ie i właśnie dlaczego korporacje i przedsiębiorstwa wdrażają TRIZ w swoich szeregach. Okay, so I switch to English. Hello, Sergey. I welcome you in the name of Novismo, and I would like you please to say hello to our viewers, and please say a few words about yourself, and we will start the lecture.
All right, thank you, and hello everyone. I will switch the screen so you can see me in the end. I'm afraid to touch anything now. So hopefully there will be no interruptions. Okay, my name is Sergey Yakovenko. I wear several hats. I am the president of the International TRIZ Association. I'm a professor at MIT, and I also do different types of innovation consulting. I studied TRIZ, since long ago, since 1986, from Henry Altschuler. I'm a TRIZ master. I use TRIZ just in my work. Have 115, I think, now patents, or maybe more. I don't remember exactly. But it is not the major thing. The major thing is our webinar today. Here I just want to talk about more or less general things, because my understanding is that the audience might contain people who didn't hear much about TRIZ, and some people actually have heard and also maybe have experienced and used and learned it. That is why I will try to make this webinar interesting for both types of the audience, because TRIZ has changed a lot since classical Altschuler's TRIZ of 1985. Right now, probably it is 80% different. Not that the old part has changed, but TRIZ has acquired a lot of new things. It's a very young science, and since Altschuler, since 1985, that's where basically Altschuler stopped contributing with technical TRIZ much. So that's already 40 years, right? 15, and yeah, well, something like that. That is why naturally, like for any area of science, there are dramatic changes, especially the young one like TRIZ. So, TRIZ stands for Theory for Inventive Problem Solving. That's how Altschuler called it. And, from the very beginning, it was designed for solving engineering problems, but on the level of invention. Because what is the difference? In schools, we usually learn how to solve typical standard problems using standard engineering ways. What I usually say, I'm a mechanical engineer, and if I wanted to design something stronger, I was taught that I can use thicker constructions, structures, I can use stronger materials, I can use curved surfaces instead of flat ones, I can use more supports. So a number of standard ways to design a structure stronger. And electrical engineers or other aircraft engineers and other types of engineers, they studied the same thing, typical in their fields. But what if I applied all these methods and none of the solutions is acceptable? I designed something stronger and thicker, it became too heavy. I designed curved surfaces, it occupies more space, it's unacceptable. I used more supports, the system became more complex, less manufacturable, and so I used a stronger material, it became more expensive. None of the known ways works. Then we need to invent something, and some people can do it, some people cannot. So Altschuler's idea was to develop a method, an approach, a theory. He didn't think about theory, but an approach that would allow the regular engineers to come up with those non-typical, non-standard solutions, inventive solutions. Because usually it is considered to be a gift from God. Some people can do it, some people cannot. So you know the story probably that Altschuler started developing his methodology by analyzing patents, because that's the only place, the only source where the smartest ideas of engineering in the whole world had been accumulated. So he analyzed patents, tried to extract those smart inventive moves to solve inventive problems, and he noticed that usually engineering problems can be modeled as what he called contradictions, technical contradictions, when improvement of one parameter leads to deterioration of the other. That's one of the oldest, actually the oldest TRIZ tools, known as contradiction matrix. It has been described in many different ways in many books, so probably many people have heard about it. So Altschuler, through the analysis of patents, found or extracted, distilled those 40 inventive moves, he called them inventive principles, that could resolve these contradictions. So if I design my structure thicker, it will be stronger, but it will not become heavier. I use curved structures, but it will not need more space. I will use a stronger material, but the cost of my structure will not increase. So the problem will be resolved. The parameter I want to improve will be improved without jeopardizing any other parameter. That's basically how the classical TRIZ started, right? And the goal of classical TRIZ tools was to solve problems. That's it, to find inventive solutions. So the contradiction matrix, that I just mentioned, you can find it online on many websites. It's a matrix. The vertical list of parameters, it is those that I would like to improve. So I choose what I want. For example, I want to improve strength. And the horizontal axis, what deteriorates. For example, if I design a thick structure, it will be more, it will be heavier, right? So parameter that decreases, deteriorates, it's the weight. And the crossing of the column and the line gives me those inventive moves, inventive principles that statistically have been used most often in patents to resolve this situation, right? Because if I'm designing a bridge, I design it thicker for strength, but it became too heavy. Yeah, maybe in bridge building area, that problem is new, but it is not new in aircraft design, because in aircraft, they also wanted things to be stronger, but they cannot afford designing them heavier. So, the inventive principles that were very often used in aircraft and other industries for resolving this type of problem are recommended to me, so I apply them designing my bridge. Of course, these inventive principles, it is just a model of the solution. We still need to do pretty heavy brainstorming, to trying to understand what these inventive principles mean for my bridge, right? What does it mean, cheap, short lifetime? What it means, disposable. What does it mean, disposable bridge? Yeah, whatever. It may be something made of ice or, inflatable or something else. So inventive principles just give me food for brainstorming. In some cases, they call it guided brainstorming, but I would say it's more than guided brainstorming, because it's not just a list of principles. It is, something that statistically has been used most often, and statistics is science. However, the matrix, though it was very, very, and it still is very popular, it has a number of drawbacks, right? Because, for example, if I know 15 different ways how to design strong structures, thick, many legs, stronger material, but none of them works because some parameters will deteriorate. Okay, I already have 15 of those contradictions. When I improve strength, something becomes heavier. When I improve strength, something becomes more complex. When I improve strength, something occupies more space. And what if there are 15 or 20 known ways and none works? I have 20 contradictions. If I put 20 contradictions into the matrix, I will cover the whole list. So in the long run, we can boil down to a list of for brainstorming. Besides, keep in mind that the contradiction matrix gives something that statistically has been most often used, but it doesn't mean that it gives me the best, the strongest idea. Maybe one inventive principle it can give me the best idea, but in the past it had been used just once in a blue moon, very rarely. I never get it. So the matrix is wonderful. That's a very good and very simple tool. That's why that was the very first on the list of classical TRIZ. We still use it, but we should clearly understand its advantages. But also there are some issues with the matrix. So Altshuler continued developing TRIZ. At that time, actually, he didn't call it TRIZ because he did not have these ambitions to develop a theory. He just wanted a method that would help engineers. So at some point, he switched the direction of his research. He usually said that engineers can design many things with TRIZ or without TRIZ, and some companies can even push those products to the market. With strong marketing, with very good sales, even if the product is not good, it can be pushed to the market. So, but after the product comes to the market, it just lives its own life. You cannot help it. And what happens? Some products on the market stay for a long time, being incrementally improved, and other products die and disappear. So Altshuler posed the question, why some products win and stay on the market long and other products lose and die? So he put up a new objective to analyze the strong moves of winners. What is these genes that are typical for strong products? And also common mistakes of losers. What shared mistakes did the losers make, losing products that they lost and disappeared? So that research gave him a list of rules for survival. How to design products and technologies so they have all the features of the winners. So statistically, they have some competitive advantage in comparison to those solutions that had been designed arbitrarily without any guidelines. So that list of rules for survival was another big part of classical TRIZ, and again, it was very exciting stuff. But later, Altshuler noticed that, hey, there was some sequence how those rules for survival had been used. Not absolutely randomly, but first this rule, then another rule. So there were some sequences. So he arranged those rules for survival according to the sequences that he had observed. And he came up with the most important notion of TRIZ altogether, modern or classical. The presence, the existence of so-called trends of engineering system evolution, because these sequences, what Altshuler noticed, they were very similar for a very, very broad range of different products and technologies. It sounds extremely strange. I usually ask this question at workshops and people laugh at me. Can it be true that toothbrushes and computers and cars and pointers I use in the classroom, they follow the same steps in their development? What is in common between a pointer and a toothbrush, or a car and a computer? But Altshuler's research has proved at that time that that was true. So if it is, the trends, are extremely valuable, because it can give me like a roadmap. If I'm an R&D engine development person, it's a roadmap. I can position my product on the trends where it is now, and I see statistically what the next step of improvement should be. And statistics, I repeat, it's a science. That is why the chances that I have to be successful if I follow the trends, or sometimes even jumping over some steps of the trends, the chances are very good. So the trends was a very interesting, the kind of climax of in the development of classical TRIZ. Of course, at that time, trends were very philosophical. For example, there were trends that were just declarative, a statement. As the system evolves, it becomes more controllable. Okay, good to know. But what should I do if I'm designing, a car? If I'm designing an air conditioning system, what does it mean, more controllable? What should I do? That is why some trends, Altshuler's trends, were detailed, like this one. Trend of increasing dynamization, that the system gets more and more degrees of freedom, more dynamized. Why should the system be more dynamized? Because if it is dynamized, it can adjust itself to the changing conditions of the environment. For example, system that just one piece, then there's a joint, then many joints, elastic parts, liquid parts, gaseous parts, fields. Of course, there may be some intermediate things, something between like liquid and powder, right? There may be gel or suspension. There may be something between liquid and gas, like aerosol. There may be something between gas and fuel, like ionized gas. So this line can be very detailed. But some trends that Altshuler named didn't have any lines. It was just declarative statement, like the controllability one. So what happened now? Modern trends, I mean, it is still the ones that Altshuler's named, but now they got equipped with a number of detailed sub-trends like mechanism, lines, and even more step-by-step algorithms. So practically all of them now have those, detailed lines, and that becomes much more powerful. The trends, now are becoming one of major TRIZ tools as they become more and more granular. So a lot of development is happening in TRIZ in that area. Unfortunately, many things have not been published, but still, a lot of things are happening here. Another example, something very mechanical, ball bearing, same thing. You see mechanical bearing, fluid bearing, air bearing, magnetic bearing, same dynamization trends. The beds in which we sleep. Regular one, the camp bed, you see, with many hinges, totally elastic hammock. And have you heard about water beds? And here's inflatable beds. So, you can see the same trend of dynamization, can be observed in very, very diverse engineering systems. They are true for big numbers. So that was numbers of engineering system. So that's the picture of Altshuler, and the idea of trends is actually the most important in TRIZ altogether. Inventive principles, matrix, standard solutions, it is just different ways to use trends for solving specific problems. Because trends, as you see, they are basically not solving any problem. They just are open-ended. They show how the system evolves. But usually 99% of engineers, they need to solve a very specific engineering problem, not to know the general trend of the development. That's why, to make trends easier to use, Altshuler designed those tools standard solutions and these inventive principles. Altshuler had a very interesting joke at his workshops. He usually said, you know what, guys, if I take all these trends, put them on the table like strings of ropes, and then take a big knife and chop all these long ropes into small pieces, do you know what I will get? I will get those 40 inventive principles and other TRIZ tools, standard solutions, and so on, right? So trends, it is the most kind of general expression of a number of TRIZ tools that Altshuler developed. But that's how classical TRIZ existed till whatever. Well, here it says 1960. To tell the truth, no. In the Soviet Union, it was till 90s. Because as you probably know, many of you, or at least some people heard, the economy was kind of planned. It was not an open market economy. That's why there was no economic incentive, basically, to develop more efficient engineering solutions. Everything belonged to the state. That's why competition was non-existing. But then later, especially when TRIZ started moving to the West, it became clear that something is wrong, because we generate those ideas but none get implemented because no one is interested. So and besides, that was suspected from the beginning, but it became clearer after classical tool was developed that the most important thing actually with innovation and inventive solution is to understand what problem to address. Because if I address an old problem, even with a contradiction matrix and inventive principles and trends, you know what? Sometimes if the problem is old and difficult, I will not be successful. For example, there is a problem somewhere in gas turbine, that needs to be solved. And General Electric is in this business to build turbines for centuries. They have the best experts in the world. And believe me, during these 100 years, without any TRIZ, those experts, just with trial and error, they try different things. That's why if I show up with contradiction matrix there and say, hey, I will solve your problem with TRIZ, that is a fat chance I will not be successful. Yeah, those inventive principles will generate idea. The only answer I get from G, we have already tried it. They had 100 years. They can say, you are smart. You are not an expert and you suggest these things, but we have tried it. It did not work. That is why the most important thing actually in innovation and inventive problem solving is game changer. To find another problem, not just any problem, but the problem with that, the issue with engineers, with all of us in Russia, in Poland, in the United States, engineers are trained to fix problems. If something does not work in the system, I'm an engineer, I'm supposed to fix it. And that's it. Engineers assume that they are married to problems. But we forget that there may be a totally different problem that we can address and achieve the same goal of the project. Because I don't care what problem I'm solving. I care about what, if I achieve the goal of my project. If I want to, that's another thing I usually mention at my workshops. If you learn everything, I will be so happy that I will jump on the table and I will dance with joy. The problem is the table is not strong for me. So I want to design it thicker so I will be able to dance. And I have this, my contradiction. If I improve strength, I can dance, but the table become heavier, more expensive, more difficult to move, and so on. And then we can use TRIZ and so on, and probably we will not generate too many ideas because tables have been around for a while. But we totally forget that why should I improve the strength of the table? Who told you that's the only problem that will allow me to dance on this table? There are other ways I can solve other problems and to achieve the same goal. I can lose weight, or I can, take balloons with light gas, and dance on the table holding those balloons, and the light gas will compensate for my weight, and even very thin and weak table will be enough. So there are a number of other problems I can resolve and achieve the goal of my project. And we forget about them because immediately with classical TRIZ, we jump upon the problem that we see on the surface. Einstein said once that if he had 1 hour to solve a problem on which his life depended, he would spend 45 minutes analyzing the problem, 10 minutes reviewing the problem, and only 5 minutes solving it. That's why the most important thing is to identify what problem to address, and classical TRIZ doesn't have it. It came from patents, and you know what patents are. The patents describe problem, solution, problem, solution. The patent doesn't tell me why the inventor had decided to solve that problem and not another one. So that's why classical TRIZ doesn't help here. So gradually TRIZ absorbed, acquired a number of other tools that solve nothing, but they are excellent for analysis. They can find the best problem, the easiest problem for me to solve. Not the original one, the easiest one. Sometimes so easy that I don't need to even TRIZ to solve it. And there are a number of tools, analytical tools, like function analysis, trimming, cause-effect chain analysis, or it is also called RCA, root cause analysis. For example, function analysis, it derived from value engineering analysis. This was developed at General Electric. So the idea of function analysis, and I will not go into details, we don't have that much time, is to take the product that we're going to improve. For example, device. We can do it with technologies, but just for example, I take a device, I take a chair, and I split the chair into components. There is a seat and the back and the legs. So, but of course, those different components, they are designed for different things. They perform different functions. It's very difficult to compare them and tell which part is better and which part is worse, because what is better, seat or legs? How can I compare? They're totally different for totally different purposes. So function analysis has a way to compare different parts of your device, a motor, a chair, a toothbrush, a computer. How? Well, there is a criterion, a universal criterion that I can calculate for every component of the chair. This criterion shows me how important that component is, how important job of the component is, because some components are more important, some components are less important. So that criterion is called value. So the value criterion, according to a founder of value engineering, Larry Miles, is ratio of functionality index over cost. Functionality index, that's the importance of the component. And there is an approach how to calculate it. So if I do the analysis of my product, I split it into pieces, I calculate functionality index for every part of the chair, for the seat, for the back, for the legs, how much every part costs. I can get it from the accountant, from the accounting, and I put all these components on the chart. Every point on this chart shows me a component, right? It has functionality index and it has a cost. One point is seat, another point is legs, another point is frame, and so on. Just looking at this graph, I can tell you if your product is designed well or not. Because how can I do that? I will try to draw a line in such a way that the points reside around it more or less uniformly. I can do it if the points kind of cling to the line pretty well. I can tell you your system, your product is designed well. Why? Because in that case, the more important component is, the more expensive it is. That is fair. Components that do a more important job, a better job, they cost more. Like in any company, employees that do a good job, they have higher salaries. That's normal. But if the components are all over the place, not good. It's a sloppy design. I don't, actually, I really love components. You probably cannot see my cursor, but I like the component that is on the left, on the very, very top, because functionality index is very high and the component is not expensive. But I really had the component that is low on the right, because look, its functionality index, its contribution to the operation of the whole system is very low, but look how much it costs. But what I can do, what else I can do? I can split this graph into 4 quadrants. And look, I have innovation strategies for different components, different strategies. The components that are here, that's my target domain. I love these guys because they are not expensive and they do excellent job. I will not touch them. Let them live. These components, they do not really cost much, but their performance sucks. Look, their functionality index is so low. For these, I will use TRIZ to boost up their functionality. These components, they do a good job, but they're very expensive. So I use cost reduction techniques for these. And what should I do with those components, that are very expensive and do poor job? I will do exactly what I do with employees that have high salaries and do not work well. I will fire them. In TRIZ, there are special techniques that is called trimming. We trim those components. You can say, wait a minute. How can it be? The legs of the chair are not good, but if I throw them out, what kind of a chair it will be? Well, trimming is more sophisticated recommendation. Trimming recommends to throw out, to fire those components, but because prior to that we did function analysis, we know exactly what function these components perform, so I keep these functions. I keep the job and I just delegate this job. I delegate the function to the components that remain. So that is why, for example, I trim the legs and I delegate the function to support the seat to the wall. Or to the ceiling, it can be supported, suspended from the ceiling. Or to the air, there will be inflatable cushion under the seat, so the air would hold the seat, so on. But those are ideas. But look, when I do function analysis, I design innovation strategies for different parts of my product. Not the same innovation strategies for all, but different strategies for different components, right? Again, it is very generic. There are a lot of details and nuances. That's the whole kind of part of function analysis. And actually, there are a lot of innovation consultants that do only this. They go to companies, take products together with specialists, analyze them through very detailed function analysis, and develop innovation strategies. So also there are other tools like cause effect chain analysis, basically known as a method of 5 whys, that allows me to move from the problem that I see on the surface to the problem that sits deep inside. So some analytical tools like trimming and cause effect chain analysis, they are game changers. They give me totally different problem to solve. So I had a problem with legs. The legs were scratching the floor, and now when I did trimming, I have totally different problem. How can air support the seat? So maybe there is a problem within turbines that GE had been attacking for 100 years. But they tried to improve that part. But when we did function analysis and trimming, this part is thrown out. But its functions are delegated to some remaining components. GE never had those problems before. How to enable some other components to perform functions for which they had not been designed. That's why it gives me very new problem. And when I employ tools of classical TRIZ for generating ideas, those solutions will shine. That's why this combination of analytical tools and problem-solving tools of classical TRIZ, that's the best marriage you can imagine. And if I do that, more points will be in the target domain. That's why the line around which the points reside will be steeper. But if you look at the angle of this line, functionality over cost, this angle is suggestive of the value of the whole system. The steeper that line is, the higher the value of the whole system is. Actually, if the value will be, higher and higher, and indefinite when the cost is zero. So the line becomes vertical. So, for example, at some companies, at Siemens, they use this angle, as a criterion to judge how successful that or another innovative project was from innovation perspective. So, as I told you, the classical TRIZ and then analytical tools, that was the best combination. But later, when TRIZ moved big time to the United States, Europe, Asia, it became clear we need something more. Because we can generate good solution for a good problem, but it will take 10 years to implement it. Industry cannot wait for that long. Your management will not be happy if you have a good idea for a right problem, but it will take a long time to break into the market. We need practical ideas. That's why a bunch of practicality tools have been added to TRIZ. Some of them like function-oriented search, because many things in this world have been already invented. So why should I reinvent? I would rather use some criteria to find technologies that I need, that perform the function that I need, and instead of inventing something from scratch, I will just adapt something that exists. But of course, we do Google search. We'll look for things in our own areas. We are experts. The trick here is that we use criteria, function criteria, to look for existing technologies in totally different areas. That's why we have very good chances. So it's a very good practicality tool. Another very practical application, in the beginning of every project, I do search what exists, the states of the art. And very often I can find a solution that exists exactly what I want. But unfortunately, I cannot use it because it had been patented by a competitor, and I cannot infringe that patent. Interestingly, TRIZ has absolutely amazing ways to walk around competitive patents. So basically, you will be able to have approximately the same technology, but with a solution, but without buying a license and without infringement. Usually what you can find in public domain when they talk about patent circumvention, they mean trimming. Yeah, and it is one of the strategies, when you take competitive patent, trim something from there, solve a problem, and functionally have the same thing. But it is the oldest method and kind of the most primitive. Right now, the methodology of competitive patent circumvention has a number of different details and nuances. How to deal with doctrinal equivalence, different types of patents like dragon patents, and so on. So a number of TRIZ tools could be used for walking around competitive patent. And by the way, another thing, if you look on the internet, very often people say patent busting when they just invent an alternative solution. That is simple. This is primitive. Of course, TRIZ can generate another solution, different one. But when companies talk about patent circumvention, they do not want the idea of the next generation. They want exactly that solution because it's already in use. If Hyundai Motors found a solution that BMW is using, they don't need solution of the next generation right now. They just want that solution that is successful to the market, but they wanted to use it now. That is why some people do not use the term of patent circumvention correctly. Patent circumvention means I want exactly this with minimal changes, but with freedom to operate without infringing and without buying a license. Of course, it is a very practical thing. At Hyundai Motors, there is a team that just trained, level 3 trained people that just look at smart solutions of Honda, Toyota, Nissan, and use TRIZ to circumvent those. So they save money on R&D, they save money on time. So very practical thing. That's an example of a function-oriented search. Look, different technologies, microelectronics, they call it wafer etching, fossil restoration, diamond facing, teeth cleaning. But if using function-oriented search algorithm we generalize the function, basically all these things mean remove particles. So if I'm looking for a new technology in dentistry for cleaning teeth, I can find, and it has happened actually, some interesting ideas in microelectronics or in fossil restorations or in facing diamonds, right? So besides direct function-oriented search, there is so-called inverse function-oriented search when I have a solution. But now I'm looking what functions this solution, this technology can perform. That's an interesting tool that can use for other tools, but it is one of them. How interesting and valuable this application may be. You can ask any company, do you want to find new markets for technologies that you own? Of course we do, because if I'm a microelectronics company, I'm just focusing on microelectronics. I don't have time and resources to check how the technology could be used in dentistry on fossil restoration. Besides, I don't know TRIZ. I don't know those tools that allow me to find new applications on different markets. So that's an example from a certification level 3 program at Intel for many years. That's why it is public. When they tried to remove microbubbles from the photoresist, they deposit it on their chips because photoresist is a viscous liquid. It traps bubbles of air, and bubbles get stuck there. During thermal treatment, everything solidifies, so the bubbles are there, but during heating, they expand and break the layer, tear off resistors and so on. So how to remove microbubbles from photoresist? Intel applied, full-scale function-oriented search with all these details, algorithm and questionnaires, and they found a number of technologies in medicine, because, for example, bubbles during making injections can be lethal. People can die. That's why in that area, it's a much more important problem that for Intel. Or, strangely enough, in champagne industry, because concentration of bubbles in champagne is very strictly regulated. And if I need to control, increase or decrease concentration of bubbles in champagne, if I cannot do it, the product will never come to the market. For champagne, the problem is more severe than from Intel. That's why they tried their best, and they had the best technologies how to address the issue. So the Intel actually now is using the technology from those industries. Of course, not directly. The champagne technology still requires adaptation, solving adaptation problems, but adaptation problems are always simpler, and easier to solve than inventive problems. And the very last edition, kind of generation 3 innovation, because TRIZ, got different names as these tools were added. Innovative technology of design, TRIZ plus, Gen 3 TRIZ, it didn't help. People still continue calling it TRIZ. That's how the science of TRIZ is changing. So now TRIZ, it is not just a problem-solving technique that has contradiction matrix or general trends. It's a full-fledged innovation platform. So the last addition to TRIZ, it is basically linking engineering, problem-solving, and making money. The market demands, because usually we try to do what the market asks, voice of the customer. But the problem is that the customer doesn't know what to ask sometimes. That is why they ask whatever they know. Apple never got any requests for iPhones because the market, the consumers could not even imagine it. Only when they saw the product, they said, oh, we had been dreaming about it. But they are lying, because in the past they could not even imagine that such a product exists. So the latest addition to TRIZ, it is identifying or discovery of so-called MPV, main parameter value, things for which the market pays, what influences purchasing decision. Some of them are known, some of them are unknown. And if we find undiscovered, unknown MPVs, things that influence purchasing decision that our competitors don't know, even the consumers don't know, of course, and embed these things into future products, of course, we will be gold. right? That's an example that we did long ago. You know, people travel, you know, they use airplanes, and we asked, would you like to have you know, cheaper tickets? Would you like to have better seats? Would you like to have a choice of airlines, better terminals, you know, entertainment system, you know, good food? The answers were yes. Yes, we want that. Yeah, that's the voice of the customer. We want all that. Would you like pretty, beautiful um, uh, uh, service on the aircraft? Of course we do. But when it comes to paying, people are not going to pay for that. Good terminal would be nice to have, but I'm not going to pay extra money. Good food, I'm not going to pay extra money. I want it, but it is not influencing my purchasing decision. If the models will be serving me on the aircraft, it's nice, I would like it, but I will not pay extra money. So when it comes to what influences the decision, very simple things. Cost, itinerary, I do not want to change the plane 5 times, and schedule. I don't want to leave my home at 3 in the morning. That's it. So, but at least these are known, but there are, as I told you, unknown MPVs that the consumers don't know. So again, that summarizes what I said. MPV, it's the parameter attribute that influences my purchasing decision, and actually innovation can be even identified as improvement along those MPVs. And again, I don't want to spend too much time. MPVs can be at different levels. Usually we deal with them at a very generic level. The product should be more convenient. The product should be easier to use. The product should be more attractive. The product should be sexy. Yeah, marketing people can talk about it, but what should engineers do? As a mechanical engineer, what should I do with the product to design it more sexy or easier to use? I don't understand that. So in TRIZ now, there is a mechanism how to convert, you know, the high level, the strategic MPV into specific parameter that scientists and engineers know, understand. You know, recently I had a program and at Unilever, actually, it's not a secret. There was a goal to design a soap that gives the people feeling of cleanliness. And chemists were totally puzzled. What does it mean? You know, if they tell me bacteria count, we know what to do. But feeling of cleanliness, what should I do? And when we went through this MPV discovery process that modern TRIZ has, it turned out that people have the feeling of cleanliness. They think that something is clean if the temperature of the skin drops a couple of degrees. Then people think that it's clean. Okay, so now I need to decrease the temperature of my skin 2 or 3 degrees while I'm washing my hands. For chemists, that's a very easy problem. But in the beginning, until high-level MPV was converted into specific parameters, you know, there was no solution for a number of years. So basically, what modern TRIZ allows to do, and that's what companies want, they have a product and they want to have an improved product. So first, I identify MPV that are known from voice of the customer. Then I do, and I have a group, a list. Then I do this MPV discovery, this called voice of the product, and find those hidden MPVs that the customers never ask. And I have another list of those. I combine this list, and I have MPV candidates. Then I go to the market and verify, hey, guys, will you pay for that? And they say, yeah, we will pay. Now I state problems that I need to solve, how to improve those things in my product, you know, and then, only then, I use this classical TRIZ contradiction matrix and everything when I need to solve the problem and generate idea for the improved product. So that's what I meant when I said that modern TRIZ, it's an innovation platform. It's much, much more now than just a group of problem-solving tools. But in general, any project has these three parts: problem identification, problem solving, and concept substantiation. And if we open these parts, look how many tools, and MPV is not even here. It is the tools that are part of kind of official body of knowledge of TRIZ that what is required for international certification. Look how many tools can support analytical part, flow analysis and cause effect and other things, problem-solving tools and concept substantiation. Of course, to study all that, it's a couple of semesters in school, in the university. Engineers don't have that. That's why it was split into kind of tiers, like level 1, level 2, and level 3. So, for example, during level 1, we learned some analytical tools, function analysis, cause effect, trimming, some problem-solving tools, inventive problem-solving, function-oriented search, and some introduction to trends and to standard solutions, right? As for concept substantiation, here we learned some major things about pattern circumvention. These are the tools that we will discuss during level 1. This is a general webinar. We will have another one that is totally dedicated to level 1 workshop. And here, at that time, I will talk more about these tools. As for applications, what kind of project TRIZ can address, there are a number of them. Product and process improvement, technology forecasting, these pattern circumvention, or strengthening your own IP, green TRIZ, basically sustainable design, technology validation, so the whole list. I don't want to read it. And as I told you, TRIZ for pattern strategies, strengthening your IP, walking around competitive patterns, other IP projects, it's probably one of the most popular thing. So what we have, those tools of TRIZ, that we have here, they can be like pieces of Lego, some problem-solving tools, another problem identification tool, some problem-solving tools. They can be combined in different roadmaps, depending what kind of project it is. If I have cost reduction project, I take some problem identification tool, some problem solving, and something from concept substantiation. If I have new product development, I will have another roadmap, another combination of tools. So it's like a pieces of Legos out of which I can compose my innovation project roadmap, depending on what type of project I'm having. Right? So depending on what situation I have, what type of project I have different tools for that, like in this caricature. This is pattern strategies. There are a number of them. What was done on this list on the left, there are typical pattern strategies that lawyers use, but they use their legal techniques. Here are different TRIZ tools that are used depending on what pattern strategy we're using. I want just speed up. Now, this is just propaganda, just companies that use TRIZ. And again, use TRIZ, it's very generic. If you, for example, go to Siemens or to Samsung, yeah, they use TRIZ, but ask what TRIZ they use. Because different people call TRIZ, call different things with the name of TRIZ. Samsung, has abandoned using only classical TRIZ long ago. The same thing with GE, the same thing with a number of other companies. The most valuable part for them, actually, it is the analytical tools. Here, I will just jump to one slide. So there was kind of a poll, the interview, of TRIZ specialists from major companies, those TRIZ professionals that work there, about 2,000 TRIZ practitioners, levels 2-4 from Hyundai, Tata, GE, P&G, Volkswagen, DuPont, Novartis. What TRIZ tools are the most important for them in their practice? Look what tools they specified. Analytical tools, function-oriented search, and some things there. I don't want to say that inventive principles, are not good. They are good. But in the past, they were 30% of the whole TRIZ. Now they are probably 3%. TRIZ still has them, but for successful solutions, that's what big corporation named. Yeah. All right. So, but still, TRIZ is evolving. The most popular kind of special workshop topics now is these. Look, TRIZ for entrepreneurs. Yeah, TRIZ, all those tools. That's, as I told you, a couple of semesters, or gradually, for level 1, level 2, level 3. And by the way, even after level 1, we will know some tools from problem analysis part, some tools from problem solving part, some tools from implementation. But there are special workshops, special applications of TRIZ tools for entrepreneurs. They do not even focus on engineering problem solving, but how to find a new market for your product technology, how to design innovation strategies, disruptive or sustaining, patent circumvention, for supply chain and logistics. There are tools that I mentioned, like flow analysis. That's exactly what happens in supply chains. And flow analysis, that's a big topic, probably a couple of days, but applying to logistics, that's the best tool. TRIZ for Internet of Things, sustainable design. I will skip that. TRIZ proliferation, just to show you where TRIZ is now, and it is growing. The International TRIZ Association, again, that was established by Altshuler. He was its president for a long time till he passed away. That's a kind of it's not hierarchical structure, it's more coordination structure. There is association of associations. Look at TRIZ members. MA stands for International Association, in Russian, Международная ассоциация, because TRIZ, it's a Russian acronym. TRIZ Association of Samsung, Intel, Siemens, Philips. I did not put Poland, but actually there is TRIZ Association of Poland, and there will be another one coming soon. So these are members of TRIZ that unite about 40,000 people. Yeah, that's it. These are the different training levels, level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 4, there is nothing to learn. People just do project, because Altshuler created the certification system, and he chartered TRIZ, because it was his organization, to do this international certification. So just for your information that it exists. Level 4, just doing project. Level 5, it's like, you develop something new, some research in TRIZ, and so on. What is good? Some companies accept only TRIZ certification. Again, we live in the free world. People can learn TRIZ anywhere. I can learn medicine anywhere, from a university or somewhere in Africa or in India. But if I want to work for a hospital, they will ask for. Sorry, they will ask for. Yeah, they will ask for diploma. So these companies take this TRIZ certification, and it matters something for human resources. People get human resources points that are for promotion. So just for your information, these are, from Korea. This is the CEO of POSCO, #2 steel making company, where TRIZ is one of major innovation methodologies. This is from Samsung Display. Many of you have probably Galaxy phones. TRIZ also is a major methodology there. All these institutions got an award from the International TRIZ Association. And this is a Samsung Display TRIZ team. And we have the same thing with LG, R&D, and other companies. I mean, GE, Siemens. I don't want to do a lot of propaganda here. All right, that's it. I'm sorry it took a little bit too long. I know there is a football game coming. So now if there are some quick questions, I will be happy to answer. Hello? Hello?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
We're looking for questions from the audience. Czy ktoś z Państwa macie pytania? Proszę je bardzo napisać na czacie zaraz koło wystąpienia.
Oops, I don't know what happened with this. Okay.
Czekamy na pytania w dalszym ciągu. Okay, mam jedno pytanie. We have one question. And the question is it affordable to implement TRIZ in small organizations like startups?
Very good. Yes, that's a good question. Of course, startups do not need all those many tools that were shown. You know, startups don't do technology forecasting. Startups do not do their fundamental research. You know, that is why many of those tools that are on the chart are not necessary for startups. You know, but some tools are extremely useful. For startup, you know, when they want to have an idea, you know, what product to manufacture, there is a wonderful tool that can take two old products and create a new one out of those that doesn't have problems of each of them. So for startups, it's a very good tool. Patent circumvention, you know, startups, you know, they have capabilities, and there is a market for copying successful products of multinationals, but they usually cannot do it because these things are patented. Multinationals patent these things even in developing countries. So the approach for walking around competitive patents and doing something, you know, on their own that is popular in the market as a cheaper alternative to the product from multinational, you know, that is extremely practical. That is extremely popular in India, in China, and and also in Europe, you know, for startups. That's why, remember, I showed the workshops, the series of workshops for startups. That is about the tools that are specifically applicable for startups.
Okay, thank you. We have another question. The question is how TRIZ is growing in Poland.
In Poland?
Yeah.
In Poland, it's very interesting. It is you know, any system evolves along so-called S-curve. There is a stage of infancy, rapid growth, maturity. Actually, TRIZ in Poland, it is in the state of infancy, or it is just getting into this kind of transitional stage, because already there are some training, some workshops in Poland, not many, but you know, there is some product on the market, some TRIZ product on the market. Later, I mean, very soon, I believe, the most important thing, what will happen in Poland, is using TRIZ in projects. You know, it is necessary for TRIZ growth, for TRIZ propagation. We need to have commercial successes. We need to have success stories from companies. Only training, you know, it will last for a year and it will die. Nothing will happen to TRIZ or any other methodology if there are no successes. I mean, by success, I mean product on the market. And that's how big companies, Samsung, GE, Siemens took TRIZ, and that's how small companies, or those incubators in Italy, for example, those scientific parks, you know, they are taking TRIZ and using TRIZ very, very efficiently. Why? Because there are results. So I believe that during the next 2 years that we will see this dramatic growth of TRIZ in Poland, because, you know, TRIZ community outside of Poland takes efforts, you know, this European TRIZ Association, the MATRIZ, International TRIZ Association. But at the same time, it's a very good time to join TRIZ, because if TRIZ becomes full-fledged, well-known methodology, there will be a lot of people that will be in TRIZ. And right now, it is still not evangelic, because, as I said, it's already on the market. But you know, still, it's not a very crowded area in Poland.
Yeah. Okay. There's another two questions. One is about the next webinar, where it's gonna be and what's the topic.
So all in all, there will be 3 webinars. The second one will be totally about level 1. You know, what tools there will be for what types of projects they can be used. So basically what benefits, what people can do after level 1. Just to say one thing, you know, if you compare university degrees, bachelor, master, and PhD, basic workshop, it is like bachelor degree. That is basically the lion's share of work, engineering work in companies is performed by bachelors. You know, all the major tools will be covered there. PhDs, you know, those things that at level 3, they're good to know, but they're not absolutely important for solving a specific problem. Level 2, there will be some more sophisticated things, but the major one, the most powerful tools, they will be at level 1. And the last workshop, it's about those new things, about those TRIZ for entrepreneurship, logistics, supply chain, you know, a little bit more details about kind of modern things, modern applications of TRIZ.
Okay, great. And the last question is about incoming workshop. Is it going to be level 1 or level 2?
It's level 1. It will be level 1. So basically, there will be major analytical tools, function analysis, cause effect, trimming. There will be major problem-solving tools. That is a contradiction matrix, because that is the simplest one. And by the way, contradiction matrix, if you ask me, it is the best marketing TRIZ tool. You know, if I have 30 minutes to explain TRIZ in a very attractive way, I will always talk about the matrix, because still it is the best way to sell TRIZ. It's the most appealing. When it comes to using it, that is not that easy. So we will learn the matrix. Another thing, resolving physical contradictions. And there are some new things about resolving physical contradictions. For those who heard about it, they know time, space, relations, whatever, system, supersystem. Now there are several other directions of resolving physical contradictions and inventive principles attached to that. So we will discuss that. As for the third part, the applications, we will talk about a couple of ways to work around competitive patents. So that is the agenda of level 1.
Yeah.
So it will be level 1. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. I don't see any other questions. Let me just check other place.
Because I heard you have a football game. That's why.
Yeah, maybe that's why everybody is rushing to the football game. Yeah, there's no other question. Thank you very much for this presentation and this webinar, and we'll be seeing each other in the next webinar.
Thank you, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email. I will be more than happy to answer.
Okay. Just switch to Polish. Dziękuję wszystkim za uwagę i za obecność na seminarium. Zapraszamy na kolejne informacje o tematach. Jeżeli ktoś nie usłyszał, może znaleźć na naszej stronie i na profilu facebookowym. Zapraszamy też do tego, aby zadawać pytania w czasie następnych webinarów i zapraszamy również na następne szkolenie na 1. stopień, o którym mówił Siergiej, które odbędzie się w Warszawie 20 do 22 czerwca tego roku. Dziękuję jeszcze raz wszystkim i do widzenia, do usłyszenia. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.